Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I'm not sure, is it evening, afternoon? No, morning, afternoon for you guys? Hi, thank you for joining me. My name is Nicholas Vince. We're just waiting for Christopher to sort out, to apologize. This is all my fault, not Christopher's. Um, I got caught up with doing some stuff on a short film, and I thought I'd set a reminder a good half an hour before this was supposed to start to remind me to set everything up. But no, I didn't. I just managed to set one for 4 o'clock. So I am running behind. So my deepest apologies for that. If you're watching this, you should be able to see the comments that I've created. I've been posting some stuff about questions and so on. So whilst we're waiting for Christopher to join me, and I know he's got some questions for me, if you do have any questions, do please feel free to type them in the live chat, which is to the right of this video. And I will do my best to answer them. Yeah, what else can I be talking about whilst we're talking about independent filmmaking on Hellraiser or anything? So, as I say, I'm quite happy to answer any questions that you have. And as I say, if you would like to introduce yourselves just by typing your name into the live chat, do please do so, because it's always nice to be able to talk to people by name and give them shout outs. So if you'd like to, I can see it there. There are 5 of you watching. As I say, it would be really nice just to know who it is that I'm talking to. If you're uncomfortable doing that, don't worry. That's no problem at all. But yeah, so I'm just going to keep on flipping backwards and forwards between the YouTube and Messenger, where I'm chatting with Chris just to see how he's getting on in terms of actually getting online. Okay. So what's okay? Well, the thing you obviously know about me is that I played the Chatterer Cenobite in Hellraiser and Kinski in Nightbreed. You might know these. You might have seen the films. You might not. I was working with people yesterday saying, "Oh, I haven't seen the film." It's fine. Not everyone's seen Hellraiser. Not everyone's seen Nightbreed. I completely understand that. It's completely impossible to do all these things. So let me just flip back to you again. Yes. So let me just see. Oh, hello there, Laurie. Hi, Laurie. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for putting in a name. It's nice to know. Oh, we've got 7 people watching now as well. So, and do forgive the voice. It's winter, and yeah, this time of year, it's so hard to keep your voice going, particularly after what I was doing yesterday, which was something really exciting, which has not really been announced yet, but it's terribly, terribly exciting as far as I'm concerned. But it involved me doing voiceover work. And I always get stressed out about doing that. So I was... that didn't help the coffee choke the voice as well. So what else? Well, so I was talking about Hellraiser, talking about Nightbreed, but also behind me, you can see, if I move my big head out the way, there are a couple of posters. That one is for my second short film called Your Appraisal. And the other one is for another one called Necessary Evils, which is my third short film. These are my short films as writer and director. The interesting thing is that, it was interesting to me anyway, we shot Your Appraisal in one day, and then the following 2 days we did Necessary Evils. Because there were lots of reasons for doing things that way. I don't recommend it in terms of stress levels. Actually working on 2 short films at the same time, that is a tall order that I was lucky. I was surrounded by very professional, incredibly talented people. But yeah, that was just. I'm going to avoid trying to do that kind of thing. Having said that, that's kind of like doing a. No, it's nothing like doing a feature film. Completely different scripts. I suppose it kind of is, because you're going to work in different scripts and different different actors each day. But yeah, I suppose it's like doing 3 days on a feature film, one after the other. Cool. Christopher's just saying it's verifying the installation so that he can actually join me. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I really should have got this stuff. So we agreed that we were going to do all this 15 minutes so you wouldn't have to face these delays. So what else can I tell you? Okay. My first short film is a film called The Night Whispered. That came about because, well, there was a competition called In Fear, where this is a TV show where they were asking people to submit 3-minute films, which were then going to be broadcast and judged by an audience just to see how scary they are. That's right. I've just seen Laurie's comment, which I'll come back to in a few moments. And that, yeah, so that was what was inspired me to do my first short film as writer and director. And that was done 2 years ago now. And we shot it on the coldest night in the UK. Oh, that year, that November, it was 0 degrees Celsius. That was freezing point, and that was very, very cold. Hi, Kyle. You worked in front of and behind the camera. Do you have a preference? Okay, that's really interesting. And Laurie, thank you for mentioning The Offer. That's something I acted in recently with a whole load of people from Hellraiser, Barbie Wilde, Simon Bamford, Ken Cranham, Oliver Smith, who plays Skinless Frank in the movie. That was really, really good. Fun. Yeah, I'm waiting for that. That's on the festival circuit, so keep an eye out for screenings of The Offer, because it's done very well. It's even won an award for the writing of that. You've worked in front of and behind the camera, Kyle. That's which do I prefer? Do I have a preference? That's very interesting. I obviously want to make movies in all sorts of different ways. I just love being involved in making movies because they are fun. This should always be a fun experience. It's going to be hard, painful, difficult, nerve-wracking. All those struggles that we go through to create these films, whatever your role is, you're likely to experience that. But at the same time, it should be fun. We should be doing these things to have fun. Neil Gaiman famously comments in terms of doing any work, do it for the fun, do it figure you want to because you've got a passion to do it. Never do it just for the money. Hey, we have to do stuff just for the money, just because we have to pay rent and eat, etc. I completely get that. But as far as your art is concerned and what you're doing, if you feel uncomfortable about doing something, never just do it for the money. But that is a vast, sweeping statement. Anyway, what was it, to answer your question, Kyle? It's very different. I've done quite a bit of acting this year. I've been doing quite a lot of acting this year, in the last couple of years particularly. And as I say, I wrote behind it. There are different things. It's a very different experience. You think it, in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. I'll tell you the real difference, okay, between being a performer in front of the camera and writing and directing something. If you're a performer, you're going to learn your lines, you're going to discuss them with the director, and then you're going to turn up, you possibly you're going through makeup fittings and costume fittings, etc. And you may, if you're the star of the film, great, you're going to be involved the whole of the filming process. when you're actually shooting the film. But otherwise, you're not really involved. If you really want to know, to be involved in the whole of a film, then that's going to be behind the camera. And therefore, it's going to be a lot more commitment, but a lot more involvement, and I guess in many ways, a lot more satisfaction. You're there is that thing, you're going to be talking to the same people or the producers. So in terms of the commitment and the fact that you're going to be working with the same people, that definitely is a consideration in terms of enjoyment. Having said that, I spent 1 day's filming on a feature film earlier this year called The Book of Monsters. And I got huge enjoyment, and it's something that I'm really, really looking forward to seeing coming out next year. Because it was just so much fun, and they were such a great bunch of people. And I really do miss the fact that I wasn't therefore involved in it an awful lot, because I'm not the star of that film. I've got a really good role. I'm very, very pleased with the role I'm playing, so I'm really excited by it. But I look at all the days that the stars of the film were spending on it, and the great camaraderie and all the behind the scenes photographs. Such a great bunch of people. And I missed out on a lot of that. And he's like, no, I want to play. I want to go back in the playground. I want to be playing part of this game. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts, I guess. So the honest answer is I prefer both when they're going well. When it's not going well, then obviously you wish you were doing the other. So if you're really struggling with the acting part, you're going to wish you were doing the directing and being on the other side of the camera. So yeah, it's a really good question, but yeah. So yes. Oh, Michael, afternoon, Michael and Parker. Hey, nice. Thank you very much indeed for saying hello. We've now got 9 people watching. Hold on, let me just flip over to, let's see how Chris is doing. It keeps looping on the internet. Okay. I'm just going to type something for Christopher, because something just stuck at the back of my mind. I know people have had technical difficulties. Are you using... browser are you using? With me? What browser are you using? Yes, sorry, just I'm checking with Chris. He's having difficulty with the installation of the relevant things. And I just realized I may not have warned him that a particular browser, it doesn't work with a particular browser. Yes, so I see. Chris is having difficulty. Chris, if you, whilst you're we're trying to struggle, and we may just have to have you posting the questions in the same way everybody else is, which works for me, but I apologize, that's not obviously what we were hoping to do, but that is a backup plan. Let me just say, yeah, okay, right. I'm going to be flipping backwards and forwards. So so hopefully, I don't know if you saw the memes I made last night and this morning with Disney. Oh yeah. Hi Laurie. Yes. Having acquired new Disney Prince. Haha. Yes, I did see that. Thank you very much indeed, Laurie. Of course, that doesn't. The interesting thing, of course, that has no effect on the existing rights, the Hellraiser rights as they stand today, because those are actually owned by Dimension Films, not New World anymore. So yeah, it's a shame. It would be. That is a real shame, because one day it would be really, really nice if Clive Barker got to get Hellraiser stuff back again. So cool. Any other questions for you? Just please type them in, and I will do my best for answering. So any thoughts or comments? on that. So what about so yeah, I've now done 3 films. The interesting thing, I think, as far as I'm concerned, and in terms of making short films and why, if you are interested in making films, why you should do short films, is because you can only, in so many ways, you only learn by doing. So, and that would be really useful to know, incidentally, of those of you who are watching, if you could let me know if you are mostly interested in Hellraiser or interested in short films. It doesn't have to be in form of a question. I just know, as I'm going to have to be riffing on stuff, it's just really helpful to know what it is you want me to riff on. Because as anybody who's ever seen me interviewed, Chris, the answer to your question is yes. Please use Chrome. I suspect you might. Yeah. Yeah. Please try Chrome. Yeah, I think we found out what the technical issue is. Microsoft Edge does sometimes have difficulty with Hangouts, something for everybody to know. Yeah. Chicago. Yeah, it was. Neil, my recovery from was indeed quick, more or less quick, apart from the fact, as I say, it's winter. Slightly chesty stuff going on is fairly difficult. So why make short films? As I will riff on short films and filmmaking, unless you have a specific Hellraiser or if you have a specific thing. So why make short films? It is the best way of doing it. And I remember going to a one-day course, or a one-evening course on making short films, and said, I don't have any camera equipment. Oh, yeah, and the lecturer just held up an iPhone and said, you can make a film on an iPhone. You can make a feature film on an iPhone. There is a film, famously, there is a film made on the iPhone 6 called Tangerine. Now, that, that's very interesting. That's very true. And there's a German filmmaker who made a feature film on an iPhone before that. As long as you've got a camera, you're about 25% there. Got a decent camera that you can get it off and do some editing. Okay, you need that to begin with. The thing that the independent filmmakers really struggle with, and is the biggest technical issue, and that is sound. Filling out on Your Appraisal. Your Appraisal actually released it onto festival circuit. I then pulled it from the festival circuit, and we're still trying to sort out, because its sound is it got re-edited as well. Because I wanted to having seen it with an audience, I'm now shortening it by a minute. Sound is so important. Actually, people will forgive poor picture over poor sound quality. It's just the way we are in human beings. In many ways, you can say, okay, this is a stylistic decision as far as your visuals are concerned. It's so much harder to do that as far as sound is, because if people really can't hear dialogue and what's being said, then that is a real difficulty for people to enjoy and appreciate your work. So what's the answer to that if you haven't got sound? Make a silent movie. No, seriously, make a silent movie. Think about what it is you can do without sound. And the other classic cheats are, okay, I've not got sound, I can't record sound effectively on set. Make a silent movie and use a narrator. dub sound onto, dub your dialogue on afterwards. ADR, auto dialogue replacement, that is possible as well, but that's difficult and expensive to get right. So what I recommend is you can, and this is the bottom line of the message, is use your imagination. If you want to make a movie or to tell a story, just work out what you can do with the things you've got. The Night Whispered, my first, that was, I was lucky. What did I have? Well, I had an awful lot of connections. I had, in terms of people who I knew who were friends, who are talented, would come along and support me. So I was able to go, a stage further easily. But then in terms of the story and where we're actually going to shoot it, we used a local country park. We used me because I was cheap and available. We used my dog because everybody loves a dog in a movie. And I have a dog who, if I wrote the script and I was very clear as to how I was going to use the dog, I knew he could hit marks and he would behave in a particular way. So you think about what you have got. Okay, you've got a lounge, etc. So there are ways of doing things, so we can, you can do that. Okay, it's good. Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm not missing out on people's comments. And Christopher, please don't worry. This is my fault. I should have spotted this earlier on. You've got something. So obviously you need a camera. You need, if you can get somebody who's got a decent sound kit, they are worth their weight in gold. You pay them, and any filmmaking is likely to cost some sort of money, but you can make stuff on your phone and with some mates. And if you're all sharing this together, this is a collaborative process. Filmmaking is a collaborative process. So working with friends is important and really massively important for your future filmmaking career as well. You've got to be able to work with people. So you've got, and then the other thing, of course, is you need an idea. Okay, you've got and it kind of seems a weird way of working. Okay, think about what you've got, then think about the story idea. But honestly, that is the best, is not necessarily the best. It's so hard to say this is how you should be doing things, because I don't want to limit people. This is the way of doing stuff. But a good tip is, if you have got a certain set of circumstances, that's actually very inspirational. There is a play called The Long and the Short of the Tall, written by Willis Hall off the top of my head, which famously features three young men, one of whom is Asian. And it's a very powerful, intense drama. It's about three young soldiers who've got a Japanese prisoner of war, and what are they going to do with him? And it really is a very, very powerful play. Well, the reason it's written like that is because it was written on commission for a university drama club, and they had four young men, three of whom were Caucasian, the other was Asian, and was Asian, and Willis Hall said, okay, well, what can I do with that? But that's what you've got. Limitations are incredibly inspiring. They will make you really think about it. Okay, so you've got your idea, you've got your films. What are you going to do then? Those are the things. Okay, we'll write a script. Really look at, and people saying, well, does it have to be in a certain format? Well, yeah, I think it really does have to be in a certain format. You can do it in Word. It's a pain, but it is actually fairly possible. And people saying, oh, well, I've got to do it in Word, and I don't have I can't afford all these expensive screenwriting applications. Well, they made an awful lot of movies before the creation of computers and word processors. They were written on manual typewriters. And the format was created on manual typewriter. The format of script that you see today, in terms of centered character names in uppercase and the dialogue because they used to have tab stops. So once you've actually set up your tab stop and you're and you know what it is you're doing, this is possible. Okay, so you have to learn how to be smart about this. But to be honest, if you can use Microsoft Word or Pages on the Mac, you can write a film script. You don't have to have a screenwriting app. I can be done that. And Kelly's here. Hi, Kelly. And Chris would like to know about my entire life, all my journey in film. Okay, yeah. We haven't got that much time, Chris. But okay. And I will start answering all those questions. So basically what I'm saying in terms of making a film, write a script, do it in the right format. And then if you're going to, and then have a look about making storyboards, etc. If you want some more details on that, I urge you to have a look at the bonus on The Night Whispered for the princely sum of $2.99 on Real House. You can get The Night Whispered and the 10-minute making of documentary, where I go through a whole load of and talk about all this stuff in detail, and kind of the apps that I did use, some of which on an iPad and so on, just to make your life easier and thinking about it. Those are the things you don't necessarily need to do. You do need a storyboard. You need to work out your. I know there are directors who don't use storyboards, but if you're starting out, as a writer director, or a director, I really recommend using a storyboard, just because you will then you've got it in your mind what it is. Now, on the day, you may not be able to get the shot that you wanted for whatever reason, but if you've got a storyboard, if you know the shot you're trying to get, then it means you've got something to say, okay, I am now trying to achieve this, but I may end up over here in terms of the creative vision. But I can see how that works and how that's going to work. If you have no idea and you walk on set and it's like, okay, yeah, I think we might try this, and that's just very time consuming, and then there's an awful lot of people waiting around, and you're unlikely to be paying these people, so they are giving you the precious gift of their time. So you should respect that. Okay, so oh, right. So really, really interesting questions. Okay, how did I get into the 15-second film challenges? I was talking about 3-minute films, and I do recommend having a look at the 15-second film, 15-second horror film challenge. The answer to that, Chris, is somebody asked me to be a judge during the first. Barbie Wilder and myself, and Simon Bamford Butterball. Barbie is female Cenobite, for those who don't know. Just asked me to judge, and it is amazing what people can do in 15 seconds. Having looked at 130 odd submissions, it's very interesting to see the themes that are now developing and you see frequently. Even stories, literally, you just think, yeah, you think this is a new story, this film, this idea, but it's actually already been filmed before, even to the dialogue. But it's amazing what you can do with 15 seconds. If you've got a clear story and you're actually trying to develop it, you've got a story, which do tend to need middle, beginnings, and ends. And that's a good place to start. You got to, think about story arcs, etc. So yeah, and I'm always amazed by what people can come up with. But in terms of if you want to be a filmmaker, I really recommend having a look at a 15-second horror film and see, okay, what works, what doesn't work. 15-second horror film. I'll make sure some of these links are on. I'll do a post on my Facebook page with some of the links of A Night Whispered and 15-second horror film challenge, so you know what it is I'm talking about, because I know I can't post them onto the live chats. I'll also put them on YouTube as well. Who inspired you to be a character actor? What part of you reach into the power like Chatterer to the screen? Oh, that's a very good question, Chris. Who inspired you to be a character actor? rather than the good-looking leading young man. That is just happenstance, and it depends what you mean by character actor, rather than generally the distinction is between leading roles and character actors. We're all actors, we're all playing characters. I just think characters are probably more interesting in many, many ways. They tend to have more fun. They're more three-dimensional characters. In terms of actors who inspire me, you can't see. Let me just see if I tilt my camera up. No, I have to go. No, you can't see. Basically, you will see Vincent Price. Pictures of Vincent Price. He is my big inspiration. He always was my big inspiration. Vincent Price was always my big inspiration in terms of actors. But there are others out there as well. But yeah, Vincent Price, it would definitely have to be him. That's interesting. The question coming from Laurie, I wrote, yeah, okay. You're right. You're right. I'm not a filmmaker. Honestly, I wasn't a filmmaker until I tried. I'd just written short stories and I'd acted in films. And if you're not a filmmaker and you've written something, well, find a filmmaker. Find somebody who is, and show them your work and get feedback on your work. As I say, filmmaking is a collaborative process. I'd never done a music video before a group called EXGF asked me to do something with their song. They'd asked if I could actually put it onto my chattering show, and I just couldn't work out a way of doing it. Because there's problems with using music on Google Hangouts. So I decided, okay, well, I really, really love the song. I'm going to record a music video. I've never done that before. I'd never heard of machinima, a style of video where you use existing characters and movements, 3D characters and movements, and you can animate them. It's in an app called an iPad app called Shot Pro, which is literally only a few dollars. And I just sat down with it and I worked out how to use it and decided what it was I wanted to do and what would work, and visions, and made notes, and then spent 150 hours putting it together. So yeah, the EXGF. I'll post a link to that as well. You can do anything you really want to do. If you want to do something, you just have to commit to doing it. So that's it. Who do you reach into to bring the power of characters like Chatterer to the screen? That's a very good question, Christopher. In terms of Chatterer, that is what is known in the acting world as mask work, effectively, where you can't speak. You've got, as it turned out, I had very limited movement because the costume was very tightly fitting, and by the time you got the makeup on, I could literally kind of move my head like that, and I could walk forwards and so on, but I couldn't really see where I was going, and so on. So again, it comes back to that thing of limitations when I was talking earlier on about making films. These are the limitations I have to work with. Now, obviously, one of the real powers of Chatterer is that makeup designed by Clive and brought to life by Nigel Booth, the makeup artist at Image Animation. That because Clive's original vision for Chatterer, he was going to be like a monkey leaping around the set, and physically I'd be coming crouching and I would leap at people, and it was being, that was his original vision. That's why one of the reasons, the chattering teeth, monkeys bare their teeth, and do that, and that's chimpanzees' work and so on. And that's what Clive had originally envisioned for him. When we got into the makeup and costume, it was obvious I was physically not going to be able to do anything. So Clive rethought, and I then had to, and obviously I was following his lead as to what how Chatterer would work. So that's how Chatterer is this very, it seemed, you can't have a dialogue or conversation with Chatterer. There were never any lines for Chatterer. You can't bargain with Chatterer. He's just going to do what he is going to do. And he's the only one of the Cenobites who touches people in the first film. And that's part of his power. So what you think of is like, if you think, oh, this is not going to, this doesn't work, that I failed somehow. Oh gosh, we all feel we've failed somehow. That's one of the things that kills creativity. Dealing with failure is what allows creativity to happen. Not being able to deal with failure is what kills creativity. Because you learn and you move on and you try something else until you find something that works. So that's Chatterer. In terms of other characters, it's called sensory memory by Stanislavski in The Method. You just have to, it's going to depend on the character. You have to find the truth somehow. And if you've got a good script, that's what you're going to be working with, and you just study the script. You study the script, read it, think about what it, and then when you're on set or when you're on stage or in your rehearsal, you work with the other actors. You listen. You listen above all else as to what's going on, because when we are having a conversation normally, there are tones in the way that a line is said by, when somebody talks to you, you respond not just to the words you've heard, but the way in which they've said it, the person's body language, etc. So I was doing a radio play yesterday. It's not going to be going on radio as far as I'm aware. It's going to be available on CD or download, the modern equivalent of CDs. And we were in little booths. It's absolutely, I was thinking, oh great, we'll be in the same room. No, but when I actually got into the studio, I was in my little booth, and then the lady I was acting with was in another booth, not the next door booth, but so I could only really see her by looking like that. But I had my script and my microphone there, so I'm trying to listen to her and react with her, but actually keep talking to the microphone. So that was really interesting and fun. So you've got to listen to the other actor. You do your preparation, and on the day you listen, and then you play. They're known as plays, children plays. You play, you have fun, you experiment, you get things wrong, you try new things. So yeah, I think that that's really that's how I approach roles. Read the script, read it again, try and work out, make lots of notes in the margins. I also happen to underline all my words in red, and I read the entire script. I've always read the entire script. Because I started off in plays, you had to read the entire script. Not knowing when you need to walk on the stage is really embarrassing. What your cues are, etc. So you need to read the entire script to find out what, we're talking about the days before the internet on iPad readers when you can actually do a search. I confess that I did do something the other, I was working on something earlier this year and then actually looked at the call sheet and I thought, I'm not in that scene. I've not seen that scene. Why am I? Oh, and it was because it was on my iPad and it was on a PDF, and I got to a piece in the script that said credits roll. I hadn't realized there was a post-credit sequence. So there was a kind of little bit of frantic, oh, I really need to learn these lines in the next half an hour. I didn't tell the director. Don't think I told the director at the time. But it's kind of like, yeah, if you have to learn lines very, very quickly, you have to learn lines very, very quickly. And that's because if obviously I had a physical script in front of me, then I would have realized there was another page there. But I just not, I just not spotted it because it was on PDF. So there's advantages on stuff. Okay, so right, so right, my journey. Okay, cool. And I should say, Christopher, thank you for organizing all this, and for you guys for watching me and listening to me. So let's go back a little bit to my journey as a filmmaker in terms of, okay, so I've got a script, you've got a Word document, you've got your script. Yeah, we've got about another 10 minutes officially. Yeah, let's take 10, 15 minutes if everyone's interested. We'll go till 10 past the hour. So, because we started, we started later than that. Let's go another 20 minutes. I'll keep on talking if you want me to. You got your script. I do recommend doing a story, but if you're, and I'm speaking as a writer-director, if you having a storyboard so that you can just think, okay, and again, I mentioned the app Shot Pro, which is available on the iPad, on iOS. I can't remember how many dollars it is. If you can afford it, I do recommend it, and you've got a powerful enough iPad for it to work on. It allows you to create scenes and drop characters in and move your camera around, move lighting around, so you can try different effects. You can do this on pencil and paper and so on. It really helps having a storyboard, as far as I'm concerned, because you know what not only does it mean you know what the shot is you're trying to achieve, but you can communicate to your director of photography, your sound guy, your actors, this is what we are trying to achieve. Now, it's interesting, some directors like to show storyboards to actors. Mostly they don't get shown storyboards because really you don't, and as an actor, you kind of don't want to be thinking about where the camera is, because you really want to be concentrating on what you're trying to do and find the truth of the scene and all that stuff I was talking about, listening, etc., and playing the role within the scene itself. And you want to you've got to be aware of it. I remember watching an interview with Clint Eastwood, who always used to say, he would ask a director, okay, so what sort of, how much of me is basically in shot? Is it from here? Is it down there? Is it the whole of me? And so on, as if he could think about which bit of him he's going to be acting with. I understand what he's saying, because film acting is a very technical business. If you're on stage, you just know where you have to stand, but you can swing, and it really doesn't matter how far you go off. But on film, there's an awful lot of things where you need to kind of be in focus or out of focus, etc. And that will have a real effect on what the director is going to have, and they're going to hand over to the editor or edit themselves later on. And that's going to be really important. So there are definite things you have to be aware of. Having said all that, the reason why they don't show, Christopher may be actually coming to join me. Bear with me, folks. I may be able to show Christopher. Oh, he's muted at the moment. He may have muted himself. Let me see if I can unmute him. Oh, hello, Christopher. You're muted at the moment. Christopher is here. Let me just show you. Oh, I can hear you, Chris.
Oh, thank you. I'm using Opera right now.
Right,
Thank
right,
you so much.
That's just because you've got all your light behind you, Chris. We're getting some sound issues. Have you, because you've got that beautiful bright light behind you, have you got a light you can put on your face which might help the sound?
Okay. All right, how's that?
It's a little better. Cool. Hello, sir.
Excellent. Hello. Hey, Les, I'm on now. I now know that I need to use Opera when I want to connect to this. I actually have a new browser and everything. And thank you so much for coming to today. I'm really honored to have you here. Thank you.
Okay, that's my pleasure. That we are having some sound issues, Chris. So if you just speak,
okay, is this a little bit better?
That's a lot better. Yeah, if you keep the mic close to you,
wonderful, wonderful.
Right, sir. Hello.
Hello, and I've been teaching the Penobscot Media Film Group here in Bangor, and I've been listening to what you've been saying to everybody, and a lot of the things that you've talked about. Thank you, is the things that I've been really stressing with the kids, like storyboarding, and and being able to use their smartphones and not having to go out and spend a lot of money on using their imaginations. I mean, that's. Thank you. I mean and I love to. I mean, to hear that coming from you is awesome. That really solidifies a lot of the things I've been trying to teach the kids. But thank you.
That's my pleasure. And to be honest, I'm only passing on the things that I've learned from the really good, talented filmmakers that I've been working with in the last few years, and back on Hellraiser and Nightbreed, etc. But yeah, these are age-old principles. Things.
I had a question. I mean, when did you start? Like really? I know you have a computer history a lot like I do. I mean, I'm a programmer, and I know you told me that you worked for Oracle a long time ago, and and to be into film. I mean, when did you would decide that you wanted to, and how did you meet up with the theater group that Clive had? Because I know in Nightbreed, a lot of the characters in Nightbreed actually kind of got their start from that theater group that traveled around England doing the plays and things.
Okay, well, so we're now to kind of put things in order. So we're now talking, if we go back to the beginning, we're talking about when I was at drama school, which is back in the early 1980s. So way before computers. And I was working in computers, etc. I was at drama school. I met, whilst I was there, Simon Bamford was, Butterball, was in my year at Mount View Theatre School. And Clive Barker had come along to see, who lived locally, see Simon in King Lear, and he was playing the fool in King Lear, and really liked Simon's work and invited Simon to become part of the dog company. As far as I'm aware, Clive never actually saw me act at Mount View. And then after we graduated, Simon invited me to a party, and Clive happened to be there. I met Clive, and then I started modeling for Clive. So I didn't actually work with that, the theatre group, which is called the Dog Company. And yeah, so Clive just invited, you're absolutely right, Doug Bradley was part of the theatre group, Dog Company, in particular Oliver Parker, who plays Peliquin in Nightbreed. They were all part of it. I was, as I say, I've been working with Clive as a model. And I don't have any examples of the work of the modeling that I did for Clive, but it's out there. You'll find it. It's out there.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got started, and that's how I met Clive.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. You've really you talked a lot about starting with the storyboarding. Programs that I actually use is Celtix, which is a free script
Mm.
writing tool that I found. I don't know if, and that actually works. That worked well for me when I was starting to develop a few scripts to actually put things in order, and I was able to import the actual pictures right into it and everything. And I actually, I don't know if you've heard of that tool or not. It's a free tool that I found.
Yes, I know Caltex. My problem with Caltex is because you then become part of the Caltex ecosystem, and once you've got
Okay.
past your initial the free stuff, then you have to start paying a monthly fee to use it.
Oh, right.
So that's generally why I don't
Right.
recommend it as a
Okay.
long-term
Okay.
strategy. But it is very good. You can find it on the iPad and so on. You can definitely create scripts with limitations. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Chris. Um, it's a very good place to start if you want to see, and it gives you. I think one of the advantages of using something like Celtics, it gives you an idea how screenwriting applications work. Um, your computer, without trying to talk computer techno babble, basically they're databases. Because what you're actually doing is you're building a list of character names, scene descriptions, scene slug lines, etc. Um, and once you've entered those things, they don't look like a database if you're used to using databases, but underneath, that's what they are. And therefore, all the different screenwriting apps kind of have a similar way of working. Obviously, they've got lots of different bells and whistles and different interfaces, but I do recommend Count. Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. If you a good way of starting out is with Caltex to give you an idea of what it's like to work with a screenwriting application. But I do recommend having a look at quite a few others. Again, funnily enough, I put that into the Night Whisper documentary and talking about the ones that I'd looked at. Oh, I think Chris may. Oh, hello. You still there? I can see Chris's lips moving, but for some reason, and it's nothing on my end that I can see. No, Chris, we can't hear you. I think you are speaking, but we can't hear you. Let me flip over. It's always the way. Always the way. Just when you think, oh, yep, try on. You've just muted yourself. Now try unmuting yourself. Hi. That's so weird. I don't know what's going on at your end because I can definitely see the light on your snowball microphone, which would imply it's working, but I can't hear you. So I can't hear your questions, I'm afraid. Oh, pish. Sorry about this, folks. Sorry about this. Um, Parker Osgood, try again. Parker recommends you trying again, Chris. You're showing as muted still on my version, on my interface. Oh, you're now unmuted. Try talking again. I can't see. I still can't hear you. Oh, rubbish. I've no idea what's going on there. Um, right, I'm going to watch Chris whilst Chris tries and sorts that out. Um, And you just carry on trying, Chris. Once I hear you, I will stop talking, but I'll carry on talking whilst you're talking about that. We're talking about storyboards, etc. The other thing, what are the other things okay, so you've got your storyboards. I do recommend, you've done your shot breakdown, probably just taking a script and just take it in the way, how do you create a storyboard? Well, you take what I always do is I take my script and then I look at it and I start drawing lines and I start putting in references before I actually physically start drawing a storyboard. I will just kind of make a notation, which I would then transfer to, and I have used physical, again, draw stick figures, etc., which is faster than using things like Shot Pro. And and again, I think it's the different things that are going to work for different people in terms of budget and just the way. And sometimes it's going to be easier just to do it on physical sheets of paper, and that's going to work for great people. And your storyboards don't have to be works of art in the slightest. Incidentally, I should say that Shot Pro have recently, literally just a couple of days ago, they've just updated the Mac version of the software, and Shot Pro is an iOS Mac. I don't know if it's available on Windows because I don't use Windows, but there must be equivalents on the Windows operating system, I'm sure. But Shot Pro will actually now physically export a storyboard with notes, which they didn't used to do. Basically, when I was using Shot Pro, I had to create the little sequences and then take screenshots to be able to create a storyboard. Chris is just carrying on trying to speak to me, but not having any luck so far. Oh, there you are. Hello. We're getting. I want.
Is this
disappearing?
A little bit better.
That's better. Yes.
Now.
No. Disappearing. Oop. I wonder if it might actually be your internet connection that's struggling, because I'm getting you're dropping in and out. Vaguely hearing you, but certainly not as consistently as you were before. Yeah, stick figures, as long as it's clear. I mean, and what do we mean by a storyboard? Well, you're trying to explain what the relationship, the position of. Oh, hello.
Hello. I finally caught up. Hello, I've caught up with you now. Okay, thank you. Mercury is in retrograde today, which is which affects severely affecting my computer today.
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So go. You can go on. I'm sorry. I just want to let you know that I can hear you now.
What the point I was trying to make is, what is a storyboard? Well, so those of you who I don't have one that I can pick up and show you, but basically it's a little rectangle the size of the screen that you want to be working on. Below you would have some notes. You're trying to show, is this an extreme close-up, a mid shot, a wide angle shot? Where are the characters standing in relationship to each other if you've got actors in the scene? Or is it just a wide establishing shot? And what is it? Is it a long road going into the distance? What is it you're trying to show? And that's the information that you're trying to convey. You might be trying to show whether or not there's some lighting, if that's particularly important. My view, most people don't bother. Alfred Hitchcock, who started on silent films, painting and drawing those boards with the words on, was a graphic artist to begin with, basically. Used to do the most beautiful beautiful storyboards where you can really see exactly with shading and everything. And that was definitely part of his process. And, you know, he's really thinking about the shot there, apparently. There are some question marks as to how detailed his storyboards actually were. Sorry, Chris, you wanted to say something?
One of the things that I try to teach kids on the panels in comic book, explain to them that a lot of the comic.
Okay, we're not. What I'm under. We didn't quite get your full question or your full full comment. Is likening storyboards to comics. Now that's very interesting. If you want to see a comic which almost reads like a film, in fact, they have filmed it recently, badly. I've not watched it, but all the reports are very bad. The Killing Joke, Alan Moore's Killing Joke. If you want to see in comic book form something that is so obviously a film, have a look at The Killing Joke. Have a look particularly at the opening pages. The opening. I usually quote this one because I used it when I was lecturing back in the day when I used to write comics. And was asked to go along and was asked to talk about both film and comics from that. It is a very good way of looking at it. Is to, yeah, because Killing Joke, again, I can't reach it off the shelf. You just look at it and you can say, okay, yeah, I can see that's that shot. That's the next shot. And it really feels like a film. A lot of comics do that. You know, that's part of the comic art form. You're trying to express a comic in exactly the same way. You're using words, you're using images and dialogue, etc. So the storyboard as a comic book is absolutely true. Absolutely true. So you've got, I think that is definitely a really good thing to do. Have a look at comic books and just choose any of them and see how that works for you in terms of getting ideas, inspiration. The other thing to do is just have a look at DVD extras. Are great things to have a look, which often include storyboards. I recommend DVD extras in terms, you know, all those making of things are absolute gold. I was looking at the one for The Incredibles.
Great movie.
It's a great movie, and the DVD extra and watching Brad Bird work is absolute, and dealing with people. And that's if you get the double disc edition, have a look at the making of the people are shouting and screaming at each other and saying, "This is nuts, you can't, this idea." And the guy's saying, well, the reason why he's shouting and screaming is because after 2 years they suddenly decided to give Mr. Incredible more hair, and it just didn't make any sense to me. We tried it already, and the guy just looks like a dog. It just doesn't. And you think, God, yeah, this is why people who work on things for 2 years and then somebody say, yeah, we're going to change that. It's like, what? No wonder people, you know, it's absolutely fascinating watching the dynamics. And you think people scream and rant and rave at each other. And I think the important thing is if you want people to be engaged and passionate, that means they're going to need to let off steam everything so often. And it comes back to my comment about, in my view, it comes back to my thing about being able to work with people and being able to fail and being able to deal with failure. being able to deal with the fact that people are just going to get emotional, they're going to get upset. Yeah, okay, actors can be prima donnas, I get that, but also actors are an incredibly insecure profession. And I was talking to somebody, a much more experienced actor, really, really, really good actor, the other day. And we were both just saying how terrifying it was and how nerve-wracking it was doing what, doing every single time. Unfortunately, that kind of never goes away in this business. You're never going to walk in completely and utterly. It's really difficult. If you're overconfident, I think it's really it can kill creativity. Some people, it works for some people, but I think it's a dangerous place to be. So yeah, I DVD extras and Incredibles, but they were showing the way that they do their equivalent of a storyboard is not just, well, it starts off with a storyboard. Each frame or each shot is a separate piece of paper, and the reason why they do that is because they are then going to take it up and pin it onto a cork board or a magnetic board, whatever, so that they can move it around and change things. And this comes, this again is the idea of index cards being stuck to cork boards, and which comes from the very early stages of screenwriting and so on. The idea that you will, before you actually start writing a script, you're going to put your ideas on a physical index card so you can pin it up and then move it around and play around with the ideas. That's all part of the creative process. But also, which kind of leads you on to the idea that you're going to come across the phrase "kill your darlings," which incidentally is another really interesting film. And that is the idea that basically you're gonna come up with this brilliant line, and it's absolutely gorgeous, so good, and you just know you can see the awards dripping off this one line or this sequence, and then you're gonna get halfway close to filming, and it's just not working, and you have to lose that thing which you absolutely love. And again, this is on the Incredibles DVD. This thing. Brad Bird explaining that he'd written these pieces of dialogue. I mean, just gorgeous. In fact, a complete character that complete backstory, etc., and the character was really important. It was part of the original pitch. I just got disappeared. By the time I actually wrote, they'd done the storyboards and actually put this together. Then it just wasn't working. He just wasn't necessary. It was distracting. And he was just slowing down the thing. That's the other thing that you can't, we're talking about physical storyboards. The other great advantage that I found on doing the Night Whispered using the app Shot Pro, where I had literally, and again, it's part of the bundle, before I shot the Night Whispered, I had created an animated version of it with me doing the voiceover. The live action is actually longer than the version. The live action is about 6 minutes or so, and the animated version is about 4 minutes. Machinima version of it is about 4, but the animation, I found that incredibly useful. I didn't have time when I was doing the next two to be able to do that as things worked out. I'm doing other stuff. I would really like to be able to spend the time, because to be able to do, even if I could not got completely animated and people walking away, that actually, but putting, and it's very easy to do now, to just use iMovie or any free editing, just take a shot of your thing and then record your dialogue, you talking, or get your people in, if you got mates, just to do a reading and put it together. And now you, even before you actually get on set, you now have the opportunity where you've got an animated storyboard, if you like. And you can look at it and saying, actually, no, we don't need this moment, or we don't need this shot. So I do recommend doing that if you've got the time to do it, that you can create it beforehand. And so that when you've got a much clearer idea of what it is you are trying to achieve. Now, again, the thing with all these wonderful ideas is, having put in all this work and effort and so on, you get on the set and it's raining, or you're going to have to move, or you didn't get the location at the very last moment, your location fell through, or the cat's sick all over the floor just before you're about to shoot. Stuff stuff happens. Stuff is always going, like, stuff will always happen. And to thwart you, the gods, the film gods, they really do like playing with people. And whatever. And transport's not going to work.
That's true.
Stuff is going to happen. And you think, well, but I had all the, it's about that preparation, so that when you walk on set as a director, you are confident that you're as prepared as possible. And the reason, and again, it comes back to, so by the time you've assembled all these wonderful, these actors, the cast, the DOP, your first AD, really important to have a good first AD. Katie Bonham will be my heroine for life, who was the first AD on my first short film, as is Paddy Murphy, who was on the next two. These people are hugely, hugely important to you on the set. Their role is to...
Means as director, correct?
First assistant director, the first AD, yeah. Because they're there to help you keep track of time and watch the clock and make sure things are moving, so that you've got a clear idea of what's going on. One
of the things that that we're actually acting, we put on many hats, and when you get on film, if you ever want to be an actor, like in particular, one of the things that I did actually had a real, and she arrested the killer she did a pred, and a lot of times when people get on film, they forget that they put on many hats. Now, do you are do you go out and actually watch people and see how people act in different scenarios? Like if you have like a particular character in a story.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're talking about in terms of learning, watching for characters. Do you what we refer to as people watching? Yes, obviously that's absolutely vital as a writer and a director, an actor. Anything to do with stage film, it's one of the things you're taught at drama school. Observing people, watching people, how they behave. Just one of the real key things in life is just being interesting and caring about people. If you want to be a success in your life, full stop, you've really got to learn to care about people. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes you don't have to be tough in order to create your piece of art, but you've got to be able to care about people and be interested, because if you're not, then what the hell are you how can you tell us more about the human condition? That's right. What we do as writers, artists, directors. What can you tell me about the human condition to make me want to know, to listen to you. What are you going to tell me that's different that I don't already know? What is your unique vision of the world? What is your unique understanding of the world? And that sounds monumental and that sounds difficult. That happened the moment you were born. You got that. That is inherent in being a human being. The difference between good and great artists is having the courage to say what you think about the world, of saying, this is my view, this is how I think it's worked, this is how I think it's going wrong, and this is what we can learn, and this is what you need to see. This is what we do as artists, and it does take courage, because people may well call you nuts, they may well ridicule you, they may well argue with you, they may well so painfully laugh at what you think is a serious idea. That's all part of being a creator. Talk about people who walk around with their heart on their sleeve as being a weakness, but that's what, when you are a creator, you are ripping open your chest and thinking, look, this is my heart, this is my beating, vulnerable heart. That's what you're doing when you write anything, when you write a poem, when you speak. That is what you are doing, and it's going to be painful, because at some point it is going to be painful. People may not understand, people may just reject it, and that is part of being a human being, apart from anything else. And it's kind of where I'm going to kind of start winding this down, because we have gone over it, and I can feel my voice going. This is part of your journey as an artist. That if you want to make films, if you want to write stories, you want to sing songs, you want to compose music, and there's, we haven't spoken about, I'm really lucky to work with a really wonderful composer called Patrick Fagan, and how much that all the people, and this is something for you to remember when you're sitting there in the director's chair, everybody looking at you wanting the answer to the question, and you can't quite feel, but when you think, oh God, what the hell did I think I could write? Or why the hell did I think I could act? Why on earth did I think I could create movies? Just remember that everybody else on set is probably having those moments too. So have a little compassion for them. So that's what we do as artists. And that's why it takes courage to be an artist and carry on when you get it wrong, or you just get terribly, terribly scared. It's to do with courage and compassion and having the wisdom to be able to bring those things to fruition. So I'm going to have to, let me just check, unless there are any more questions. I hate for anybody to be disappointed, but I am going to wind this down now and say, that's my final message. It's hard, it's tough, but most importantly, it should be fun. There will be moments when it's not, but honestly, go out and have some fun, because in the end of the day, this is why we tried this crazy stuff, and it's so much fun. It really is, absolutely, just the most amazing experience, as far as I'm concerned, and it does feel rewarding when you've done something, and to know that you've touched people's lives and taught them something about themselves and helped them in some way. through something that you have written or said or spoken on the behalf of the actor writer. If you're just saying somebody else's lines, that you've connected with somebody. That's what it's all about, truly. That's what it's all about. So, Christopher, I don't know if we can hear you. Struggling. Thank you so much. Sorry, I keep on looking down on the screen. I should be looking at Christopher. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Thank you.
Just about. You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
for everything that you've done.
Thank you. That's my pleasure. Kelly, Laurie, everybody at Parker, and just looking at Laurie, lots of Laurie. Thank you, Derek. Hi there, Derek. Michael, thank you for joining us. For those, and for anybody who then watches this, because this is going to be online, I will message Chris in a few moments, discuss the best way of sharing this around. This is going to be obviously on my YouTube channel, shared to the page and so on. So when I finish this in about an hour or so, by the time it's finished processing, probably on YouTube, it will be available. So this is me. I'm Nicholas Vince. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Christopher, thank you very much indeed for inviting me. And thanks to everybody who's hung around for nearly an hour and a half now. Wow, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy Christmas or whatever your, the holiday season, whatever your religious. Or
thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. However you celebrate the holidays, I wish you a safe and happy time with your families. And wow, I really wish everybody the best for 2018. Cheerio, folks.